What is good?
What up?
What up? What's up, Honey Badger Nation? Man, hope you guys are staying warm. I know it's cold unless you're on an island.
Yeah, if you're on an island, you're good. Nice to see you today. Perfect day for golf.
Oh man. Yeah, I was just like watching snow go sideways right now. It's yeah. Buckle up.
Yeah.
Oh man. So what's good, man? What's happening?
Man, it's been really good. I mean, I've been down, I came down here on like the 5th or 6th, something like that. And just been getting, kind of acclimated. Played golf with Gene and Scott and Brent Sunday. We played Bahia, which is really hard. And our scores showed it. It was bad. But I had a great call this morning with Andre. Had a great recruit on, getting a lot of good conversations going. A lot of still big people moving over. I definitely keep front of mind. Thrive and boost his opportunities. We've got a couple of people that came back from Reels, so that's been good. So yeah, man, it's just that time of year, man. Put in the work.
Put in the work, yeah. Just kind of goes back. I mean, you and I have talked about it. We talked about it at Expert Mentors at the end of last year. We talked about, the, that formula, tapping back into the desire, tapping back into, discipline to the activities, trusting the process, and, not being afraid to put in the hard work. One of the things that in Al and I touched on, a little bit last week, I would love your take on it a little bit as we've been going through Bet David's book, Choose Your Enemies Wisely, and obviously the difference between enemy and competition, because and I don't know, I do know, because I know where my mind's going to build foundation as Caitlin's getting licensed and getting ready to get in, and thinking back through, how do I want to coach her? Obviously, she's in great hands with Stace and Reedy, but however, what are the things that I want her to learn and develop, because she's not going to be there forever, right? She gave a 2-year commitment, but what do I want her to build in those 2 years to where that will travel with her, that she'll be able to travel to a new market conditions. And then I was also, thinking back through, man, if I was to coach myself when we got back in, when we were, our run in 04, 05, going into 6, going into 7, like if I was our coach, how would I coach us? And what were the things that I would want us paying attention to develop? And I know, for us all along, and I guess that might be my question that I would love to get y'all's feedback on, right? So thinking back through 20 years ago, like knowing who we are and like we're in the coaching, what would we coach us to learn and develop that builds a foundation? Because Al and I talked about this last week, and this is where my mind's really been going. And I know a lot of agents and a lot of small business, especially in real estate, they got away from the foundational activities. The end of 20, 21, 22, they got very reactive to where you didn't really have to have that solid footing. And, I always joke, I don't know hardly any Bible verses, but I always remember Matthew 7. And I know where it came from. It came from my time with, Charlie and Jake when they named the company On the Rock. But it comes from that. They didn't name it because of that, but I went down the rabbit hole because of understanding from that Bible verse, Matthew 7, build on solid foundation, build on rock, don't build on sand. And right. We've seen too many real estate agents and business owners built on sand in 2021, 22. Now things are getting back to where you need to have a solid foundation. So thinking back through, if we were coaching ourselves and coaching others, like what would we have coached ourselves differently to do to build a better foundation? Because I think, we're excited. We got goals. We got like coming out of the gates. But if you ain't got a solid foundation, it's not going to matter.
Yeah, I mean it's tough because I push Braden in the direction of my general answer, and then listen to really Al's perspective on this too. As we're bringing on new agents, like that they should join a team. You know what I'm saying? They get in the business versus going out there and trying it on their own. At some point, for sure, Al, I know his story. Me, we went after, the business. FISBO's expired, so, making calls, doing the hard work, getting told no, like, those skills could pay me today. I could literally go anywhere and I could start getting paid in real estate commissions because of the skills that I learned and the confidence it gave me that I could lead generate, and then I could talk to somebody and convert them into a deal. Like, those skills are so valuable, and it's not easy, but at some point, I think you have to kind of determine, okay, this is the lowest hanging fruit, no cost. I'm going to be told no a lot, but that's the process, and really develop your selling skills. I think that's the thing I know that you can take with you anywhere, for sure.
Would you focus on those before the marketing skills?
Yeah, because if you develop marketing skills and you start lead generating, but you don't know what to say on the phone, you're going to be spending a lot of money to practice on leads that you bought, right? And so, I think that, when, it's easy when you don't have money. That's the easy choice, is to work on developing your skills, because you don't have any money to spend in marketing. So, I think skipping the step of learning those sales skills is dangerous, because the marketing's not going to, solve all problems, in terms of conversion and conversation. And I think you just need to, you need to get at bats. You need to get a few rounds under your belt before you start spending the money in marketing.
Yeah, no, I love that. And it's just, we've said it, never stop dating Sam, right? Sales and marketing, sales and marketing, sales and marketing. And in that order, sales and marketing, sales and marketing. We can't say it enough. And I think that carries over so well. One of the things, and I was on, and Al, I would love your take on this, but I was on, had the opportunity to be back on with James Massey and his mastermind crew last Friday. And I was thinking through this and thinking through the coaching side of things. And it's one of the things that I wish we would have focused on more so, in that initial run, when we were really starting to learn a lot of things, and foundationally and business structure and vision, is that I wish we would have gotten more clear on freedom and really what freedom meant to us. I think for us, we were so driven by standing on people's throats and trying to be number one, instead of building something that's going to move us closer to freedom. And that was kind of a aha. And that was kind of one of the things that I pushed on Caitlin a little bit. And I loved what you said. And same thing with Al, develop those sales skills that will travel, and then develop marketing. But remember what we're doing this for, right? It goes back to, keep referencing back to the book, right? As he talks about the mission, he talks about the because, and never losing sight of what we're building because. And man, I wish somebody would have, that's, I think, one of the biggest lessons, that if I was to go back and I was coaching us, I would have pushed us on, what are we doing this for?
Right.
We want to be number one. we had a major enemy, and we had a major competitor that we wanted to figure out a way to beat them. But I think if we stepped back and we looked bigger picture, I think we would have had a lot more ahas. I'm not saying we would have done anything different, but I think it's important to know what we're building towards.
Yeah. I think I believed that building that big team was gonna give me more freedom too. I think it was part of the lie that was told to us about building a big team, selling more real estate. You're going to get more free. And the truth is, your problems just had more zeros on them.
Actually, Jay, I think early on, I think you did it really right, because you were highly leveraged with not too many like buyer's agents on your team. Like you were actually handling the majority of the sales, right?
Yeah.
Like where you built a big team. It was like but you were so leveraged with, which I think is huge for people to get this, because we're always talking about recruiting and, either staying real small or just you have to go big. That middle section, I call it no man's land. And that's where you don't have enough leverage. You're leveraged, but not enough to go big, but you're bigger than small. So you're eating into profitability, and you don't have enough money to pay someone to help you with leadership because you're still in production and you're getting pulled in different directions. But you are highly leveraged on the administrative side of things.
I mean, this was back before this was before the Red Book, Keller Williams Red Book came out. So there wasn't a lot of teams to model. And so, the natural thing that I did was I hired people to do the shit I didn't like doing. So, so I ended up with a lot of admin that did a lot of the paperwork and the things that, that I wasn't good at, and putting listings in MLS, things I didn't change the outcome in. And I stayed, it kept me able to stay on the phones, following up with people. I have I'm still using it. I found this while I was here. This little sheet that I created a long time ago. This one says implementation. And, it's got, what, and then if it's done or not, who it's delegated to, or notes. Who it was delegated to was a big part of that for me. Like getting things off of my plate. Who am I getting this off the plate to? And then I used to write down, what was the value of if I was to do that, the things that I didn't delegate. Like, hey, get that price reduction on this particular listing. Well, that's $8,000 that's just sitting there if I can get that property sold. So, starting to look at all the things that I had going on, and like, where was my most valuable time being spent. And ultimately it's not the best model, but I mean, I did do 233 deals, that year. I think we hired, the 3 buyers agents, the 3 first ones that we hired were in November that year, but they didn't close a whole lot of deals. I wouldn't imagine. So it was 200 plus deals for sure. That I was doing all of the face-to-face with clients, mainly on the listing side, probably 70% of the business listing side at that time. 60 to 70. And I was just face to face with more people. And that was really where, I use that analogy of, the dentist, when you go to the dentist's office, where a dentist makes money is when their hands are in your mouth. They don't make money, following up with you and doing all that and cleaning the tools and setting up everything. And my dentist used to have those open doors, there weren't even doors on them. Like you could hear him coming down the hallway, just bouncing in from one to the next, being real nice for a minute. Hey, what's going on? How's the family? Boom. Next thing you know, his hands are in my mouth. And, that's where he, makes the highest dollar per hour work. And, so that's what you want to be. And I think hands and mouth for the real estate agent is being face to face with a client. And that was where I leveraged everything else, but like I was doing all of that. Certainly more profitable, like way more profitable, because I'm keeping 100% of the commissions. And the thing people lose, they miss a couple pieces when they go to build the team, and they start hiring agents. The first piece is they don't recognize how many new roles and responsibilities that they just added to their life that they didn't have to do before, because they were the ones doing that work. So the managing, leading, hiring, training, all of that keeps you from doing the things that you were doing that were more productive. And then, the second piece of that is that they do not make the calls you would make. They don't make them as often as you would make them. They don't make them as good as you'll make them. They don't get face to face and build relationships as good as you. They don't get referrals like you get. When you compound all of that, it doesn't really give you, it's not the real leverage you're looking for. And I see a lot of teams that start that process too early, go, that was a terrible idea. Like, it's just because you really weren't, delegate. You had more things you could have delegated off your plate that was low dollar productive activities before you go hiring a bunch of agents and trying to scale a team.
Yeah. There's no duplication, right? Like you can't scale until you have something that's duplicatable and profitable. Then you can scale.
Yeah.
And I think that's the trick, right? When you're adding agents, all you're doing is growing. You're not scaling. There's a difference that I think a lot of people don't understand, the difference between growth and scale, because typically growth, your revenue grows, but your expenses do as well. And so until you can find that duplicate, this is what we talk about all the time, right? That's what this call is all about, is a duplicatable process. That's what you have to have. And then once it's duplicatable, is it profitable? And then once it's anything that's duplicatable can be scaled. And so you're looking for duplicatable and profitable. And I think the thing that I'm glad you guys hit on it, because both of you were successfully able to escape production, escape working with buyers and sellers. And it's getting to the certain point. But one of the things, because there's nothing in residential real estate that you can make more money if you're in production with residential, single family, multi homes, right? Not on the commercial or multifamily, the investor side, but just selling homes. There's nothing more profitable than in production yourself. And there's nothing that moves the needle faster in the bank account than you selling homes yourself. I don't care what anybody out there is telling anybody listening to this conversation. If they're telling you anything different, they're lying to you. They are absolutely bullshitting. They are lying to you. Call them out on it. Stay away from them. There is nothing that moves the needle faster in your bank account than you selling houses. But being leveraged, I believe, is the way to go. And like what you did, cuz early on. But the beautiful thing now is, the pandemic opened up the global talent force. And now you can stay within the salary cap, the dollars that you have to put the best team on the field. Like, think about that for a second. If you had access to the global workforce like we do today, you might not have ever added agents. You might have added just a couple boots on the ground leverage to go help show properties and take some showings and stuff off your plate. But you'd have been so highly leveraged that it would have just been raining $100 bills. And that bank account would have just been exponentially growing. So I believe that is the right way to look at it and create it. And one of the lines that I highlighted in Bet David's book that was just kind of going back to weaknesses, right? Like, you just hired people because you hated doing it. And so you would hire, we all have, right? We've done that. But he goes, man, if they drain you of your energy, of your wallet, or your time, then you need to figure out a way to complement and get a hire or delegate those activities. If it's draining you of your energy, your wallet, or your time, that's a weakness of yours, and you need to get that fixed or addressed right away.
I definitely got lucky on that one, but it worked.
It worked. The thing that I would also say, where I've seen real estate agents where they get out of production is that they're able to tap into another opportunity.
Yeah.
And, cause out coaching model with Mikey, Al, I mean, you had that, you had the call center, you had all these other opportunities that you were chasing that really helped, kind of a driving force to get out of production. So it's just, there's so many different ways to attack it.
I think going back to the beginning of the conversation and everyone listening to this needs to figure out where you're at on the, on what stage you're at. Mm-hmm. Because before we can talk about leverage, you got to talk about, like what Jay was talking about, is the skills part. And it brings me to it's kind of funny how close our paths were to be crossed. We were that close to crossing paths back in 99. I was licensed in 98. In 99, I think I went full time. And one of the first things I bought was the Craig Proctor out of the box coaching system that taught you how to put editorial ads in, and people would call for the free report, or, they get it through the 800 number, or however they get the free. Man, I had so many leads coming in. I didn't know what the hell to do with them. Mm-hmm. And it was because I didn't have the skills. I didn't have the sales skills to do anything with them. The marketing was actually working. I know you followed Proctor for a long time, was his top coaching client. And I know that, since then we've had, a lot of growth with just our marketing education in different areas or whatever, but that's where I started. Mm-hmm. And I didn't know what to do with them. I remember Brian Moses was like one of the guys on the weekly calls. I was on every weekly call. Yep. And I was just I'm so confused. And it's because I think for me, and everyone learns differently, but for me, I need at-bats. I needed to go out there and fail. I think if you're at stage one of your business, meaning you're doing less than 15 deals a year, or maybe it's less than 10 deals a year, whatever, somewhere in there, then you really just need to work on your skills. And Get the book, Go for No, and get out there and fail. Get out there face to face and get some listing appointments that you're going to lose some. Who cares? Just go out there and get them under your belt. I mean, that is I think it's my best advice to someone that's in that stage one, because here's the cool thing. Once you master it, once you get to a point of mastery, like not only does it become easier, but it actually becomes more fun. It starts to then become more game-like. And then you're like, damn, I'm good. I took Matthew up with Fortuna's kids and the teens, and we took him up to New York to ski 2 days ago. And the one kid just could not snowboard, and he refused to take a lesson. I'm like, well, you're going to have a miserable day. On top of that, the wind chill made it below 5 or something, just stupid. But if you're thinking of going and learning something like snowboarding or skiing or something like that, my recommendation is, you could figure it out on your own. If you have some athleticism and some coordination, you'll probably figure it out eventually. And it's going to take you that long to do it. Or you could just take a lesson, get skilled quicker, and then you ultimately start having a better time on the mountain. And the same thing goes for the game of real estate when it comes to having that conversation. The more at bats, the more confidence your confidence goes up, because you're not having to think about what you're saying. It's just you're unconsciously competent, and you got to. There's no shortcut to get through those stages. There just isn't. So if you're in stage one, which I think majority of the people listening to this are in stage one of their business, doesn't mean you're new. It just means you haven't broken through that 10 transactions a year or 12 transactions, like more than one a month. Then really just zero in on those sales skills to the point where the reason for sale by owners, and that's how I met Jay Kinder. I met you because of your for sale by owner video that you had emailed me, and I was like, damn, he just made that pretty easy. I'm going to go out and do it. And I was just dumb enough to follow exactly what he said. Just do that, and it worked. And
that's a timeless video, man. That's a principle-driven training, Al. Like we need to, if that's not in the Rapid Funnel app, if that's not in the Honey Badger app, that needs to get shared, because it really is, man. It's timeless. It works in any market conditions. It doesn't matter. It's it is. That's gangster, man. I forgot all about. Yep. That video is gold. Yeah. Absolute gold. Al was saying something there as he was saying. I was thinking about it.
That was such a great analogy, Al, because I remember the first time I went snowboarding, and I was like, man, just take me to the top. I'll figure it out by the time. I thought it was going to be like wakeboarding. I was like, I can do this. Man, my wrist by the end of the day, it hurts so bad. I almost never want to do it again. And it was definitely a lot easier once you took the lessons. Such a shortcut.
And I'm glad you said that, because this goes back to what y'all said earlier in this call. That's why I believe if you're stage one or stage two, you need to be on a team. And the reason is that you get more at bats on the right team. You get more at bats at what matters the most. You don't got to worry about the things, like we know there's so many different variables that play into business, let alone the different variables that play into real estate. Like shit, we identified 115 variables just on the listing side, 85 plus on the buy side. That's just listing and buying. That's once you have an opportunity. Like you ain't got to figure out like all of those things. And that's why, with Caitlin, I was like, you got to get on Stacey Reedy's team. You need to give him a 2-year commitment, because that's what it's going to take to develop the right habits and the right skills that will travel into any market location, any ups, downs, recession, not like it doesn't matter. But when you got to think about everything instead of being on a team, or if you have the money to invest in the right coaching, because all we're saying is collapsing time. And that's where the lesson would collapse time and improve the experience to where you would want to do it again. Collapse time, improve the experience, get the right reps, the right technique. We all have those stories, right? I mean, like Just because I figured out how to run a marathon, I thought I could figure out how to do an Ironman. That was the dumbest shit ever, right? So it's like, you know, getting a route in the right environment, because we all have blind spots. And so being able to have somebody that can see what you can't see to tell you where you need to focus your time and energy and what matters the most, to improve that experience, shortcut it.
Yeah. The other thing I was going to mention at the beginning of the call when you guys were chatting about like what advice you'd give if we were starting over, when Jay and I'm not sure when you were licensed, John, but when we started, I was licensed 98, I think. And Jay, you were like 97 or 98, something like that. It's not the same. You know what I mean? Like they didn't have social media then, didn't exist. They didn't have VAs. The whole virtual assistant thing. If you wanted to hire an assistant, you're going to pay whatever the market-based wage in the States are. And you can get 3 or 4 assistants for the price of one right now virtually. And one of the honey badgers, I'm going to give him some props here because I watched through his webinar, and it's his first webinar he's ever done. And he did a hell of a job. His name's Dave Z. And he had the big team, 10 agents, something like that. And then just decided, you know what, I'm going down to 2. And then I'm just going to go like what Jay, we were talking about when you sold 230 homes or whatever, when, you met with all of them. He's doing it all virtually, everything from a Zoom. And he's got all the rest of the stuff. He's got his staff trained like Navy SEALs to handle all of those little things. And it's all virtual. He's using Sphere Rocket to source these VAs. And, it's like anything else. Like you can hire a really bad person stateside. I've done it many, many times, and you can hire a bad VA who's overseas, but you can also hire really, really great talent. I have one that works for me full time. She's amazing. And it came through Sphere Rocket, but I had to go through, 5-6 rounds of interviews before we found her, but we found her. And it's worth it to spend that time when you think about all the money you're gonna save with the leverage you're gonna get out of that. And I think that's if you were to drop me in, that's what I'd be doing. I'd be figuring out how I could do it from right here, and I'd set up X amount of appointments every single day. Explain to them a proven, repeatable process that I could plug them into to get their home listed and sold without me even having to ever come out. We know that it's been done multiple times. John, you have a coaching client, Honey Badger, down in Virginia area.
Yep.
Pam Martin, who sells everything from her beach house. Dave, he does it while, I think Dave's like in Phoenix, and he's working a lot remotely from Vermont because he likes going up into the New England states and with his family on vacations. And he's making hundreds of thousands of dollars more into his pocket by doing it, building his business that way. And so, props to you, Dave. And I think that's the way I would do it. I'd be figuring out how to do it virtually, just like this, on Zoom, meeting with clients.
Yeah, and I think it goes back to our point, right? There's so many different ways to achieve it. And that's kind of my lesson. The thing that I would have coached us on is what is freedom, and being real clear. And then what are all the ways to achieve freedom for you? And it's like Pam's one of the best examples ever, right? I mean, one, EXPI bought her $1 million beach home south of Myrtle Beach, literally like her front door and out, like not a street and multiple other houses, like literally out her front door, beach, water. EXPI bought that for her and her family. And she just made the decision. And she understood that it's a creative world and I could do this wherever I want to do this, because she had an aha moment in 20 that she was getting listings with this, and she was having a conversation, and she said, you know what? Because you know what? She had a foundation that she got up and she prospected every morning. She grabbed her cup of coffee. She sat down. She opened up her computer. She got into her CRM, KV Core, and she started making dials. started engaging, started having conversations while she had her morning coffee. And she goes, you know what? I can do this anywhere. And she started having conversations with sellers, and she said, you know what? Why don't you just flip that camera on? Because what happened in 20? Everybody learned how to FaceTime. Everybody learned how to not be afraid of the camera anymore. And she said, you know what? Why don't you just flip that camera on and just give me a tour of the home? And then that's how the virtual listing was born for her. This was in 21. She came over, she iconed in 20. She iconed in 21. She moved to south of Myrtle Beach on the beach house in 2021 into 22. She iconed in 22, sold the house in 23, full-time living from the beach, iconed in 23. So she's a 4-time icon, and 3/4 of that time she's lived south of Myrtle Beach, and her main market is in Virginia. She's been into 3 homes since March of 20. We know it's 16K cap and 20 homes on after that to be able to icon. She's been in 3 homes, and she's iconed in, the last 4 years. So whatever's possible. And just to Al, to your point, I wanted to share that story, but it's just, how do you want this to be? And what does freedom look like for you? And she got real clear on freedom for her and her family. And then she just made the decision, and it was great.
The thing that makes me think of is, like, if you're not measuring daily conversations, I don't care what the goal is, listings, buyers, recruiting, that's it. It's conversations. Like, if you're not having conversations daily, you're never going to hit your goals. Like, that's what it really boils down to. Now, it was something, Al was talking about earlier, and, one of the things that we didn't have a problem with was leads. And, like, we figured out how to generate leads, and, you have enough conversations, you're going to learn the skill sets eventually. But, that's, if you're not having conversation, you don't have anybody to talk to, then you need leads. And if you don't have leads, then, we can help you with that. Like that, having conversations, pick up the phone, man. You're better off just calling anybody than nobody. But you can't let a day go by where that's not your focus. That's where the driver of this is it's in relationship and conversation. And so, good stuff, man.
Yeah, I love it, man. I've told you guys, and I've been pushing on everybody, and I know both of you have gone down, the Bet David, choose your enemy, but also, man, I think Alex Hormozi's at the top of the food chain right now. And, if you don't have $100 million leads, you're not paying attention to what Hormozi's doing. Obviously, $100 million offers, understand the offer format. If you're not able to make sales, offer and audience are there, but you got to go get the leads. And I know what you guys are helping a lot of agents with is one of the core 4, which is ads. And so I can't stress it enough to everybody listening to this conversation. If you're not on Braden, Funnel Friday call, if you're not tapped into and having one of those, I believe you got to have 6. So, the core 4 and then the 4 lead getters. Like, can you get to 2, 3, 4 homes a month with a couple of the core 4 and a couple of the lead getters working well for you? Yes. I mean, yes, absolutely you can. And, like you said, right, man, it's like, man, I'm not having enough conversations. Well, this is what Hormozi teaches in there. Is like, well, how many contacts do you have in your phone?
Yeah.
I got 717.
Right.
I got 717 leads.
Yeah. Or your social media, go look at your LinkedIn, add your LinkedIn, your Facebook, your Instagram, add up all the people that you're connected to on all these platforms. You got plenty of people to call. That's not the problem.
Yeah. Yeah. And I think that's where, having coaching, having being on a team, being plugged in, just asking. I think, that's the first step. Just ask somebody for some help and they will help you. And that's the whole plus, minus, and equal concept, right? Who's mentoring you? And like, man, I need a mentor. I need somebody to help me or coach me. And the difference, guys, you guys listening in, mentor is somebody that's going to help you. A coach is somebody you invest in. That's the difference. And so, like, if you're at a point to where you can't make that coaching investment, reach out to somebody that you see that is having success, having conversations and converting people to do business. I promise you, the plus, minus, and equal concept. The first hurdle, though, is being humble enough to ask for help, right? And if you don't ASK, you don't GET. And so being humble enough and hungry enough to ask for help. And I promise you, people that are in alignment to value and driven, if you ask for help, they're going to help you. They will bend over backwards to help you. All you got to do is ask. And that's just like, we talk about it, all three of us. Push people to jump on our calendar. We push people to ask us questions. Do you know how many people really take us up on that? Al, do you know what's one of the, I mean, it's not funny, but it was mind blowing to me back in the NAEA mastermind. One of the value propositions and in the offer of being a part of mastermind was that you could get, we said 2, but it was really unlimited unstuck calls with Jay and Mike. Do you know how many people took Jay and Mike up on the unstuck calls?
Hardly none.
Only the most successful people in the group. That's for sure. Yeah. And you know what I think a lot of that is too, John, when you have to go through the real clarity of knowing what your problem is before you get on a call to ask somebody, you got to know what your damn problem is. And, that's always been the benefit of like going to these masterminds all these years was like the half of the value was us and getting clear on what the hell are we trying to solve? Like, what do we need to, what problem? I was just talking to Mike. Mike's in Vegas right now. He just got back from one of these events. He's been going to back-to-back events, and he's like, he didn't want to go. And that's kind of always the feeling before you have to go to a mastermind that you've been to a dozen times, until you get clear on like what, and even more so today, it's like, what am I going to learn that I didn't even know existed? Because AI is doing all kinds of crazy stuff, and you don't even know what problem you might be able to solve that you don't even know you have yet. And so there's even more reason to go today, but he was kind of struggling with because he had kind of really dialed in his problem that he needed to solve, and they had just recently solved that. And so, he was thinking about it, but that's, I think, some people just don't take the time to get clear on like, what is that one thing that if it was solved that would propel me to my vision and my future? What is the one thing? And I think that's why most people didn't get on those calls, is because they weren't really clear. They didn't take the time to get really clear on what problem they needed to solve. And it starts there. Like, you have to figure that piece out.
Man, I never really understood why for the long, I do now. I mean, I've known for the last few years, but in the beginning, I never really understood why Vern's number one book recommendation was The Goal by Ilya Goldratt. I struggled with it. I got the concept, but what you just said right there is it. Because if you understand the theory of constraints and you understand that there's a constraint in everything that we do, when you know that, then you know what your problem is.
Yeah. Yep.
Makes sense.
Yeah. And it's funny because, that book, the story, I mean, it sat on my shelf because it was so thick. It sat on my shelf through 3 mentors that told me to read it. And finally, the third time, I was like, okay, well, I think I know what the goal is, but I'm going to go and read this damn book that doesn't have any pictures and this freaking tiny print or whatever. So I got it on Audible anyways, but it's even better on Audible. But yeah, I mean, that I think, I mean, I don't know if it's, I don't know. I mean, I'd be interested in the comments. Like, do you know what your biggest problem is? Do you know what the constraint is in your business? Do you have not enough leads? Do you have not enough time? Could you be better at conversion? Like, when we're helping somebody and we get them set up with leads and they start having conversations and they're not having at least 20% contacted rate. All right, that's your first constraint. Why ain't you getting a hold of them? Right? Are you calling them immediately within the first minute the lead comes in? Well, sometimes not. Okay, well, you need to improve on that because your numbers don't match up with what we see as the minimum, that it should be. And so the constraint is always there. It's always somewhere. And, you have to understand, number one, that there are constraints. If I got you 1,000 leads tomorrow, you have a new problem, right? So exactly. Well, contacted, right? Like, you can't contact all of them, right? So, okay, well, now how am I going to solve that? Well, now we need to figure out how we're going to solve that. We're going to use automation. We're going to use technology. We're going to use AI. We're going to use all these things that we can use to increase the percentage of people that actually you make contact with. So but it's the theory of constraints. And somewhere in your business, there's a bottleneck. There's Herbie's fat ass is sitting right there in the way of you being able to get throughput to actual more profit, more income in your business. And that's such a great book, man. That's a great pickup there, John.
Yeah. And I think too, man, it's like what you said. Once you identify the constraint, then it's knowing, okay, how do I move the constraint? Because you move it, then he's always there somewhere. But I think it's having a way to think through it, having a way to identify, business. I mean, it's traffic conversion fulfillment, and within traffic, there's certain constraints. Within conversion, there's certain, like you said, it's like contacts, and then conversations, and then appointments, and then articulating your value face to face, and then moving down, and then fulfillment and fulfilling on the promise, keeping the promise that you make. And so you can identify it through there. But also I think one of my favorite, there's a mental model around triage, but I like the boat analogy. I mean, boat guys, we get it, right? And to me, it's above the water line or below the water line. Is this constraint below the water line, meaning that if I don't address it soon, it's going to sink my ship? Because we know the way ships sink is they take on water. So if I got a hole in my boat below the water line, I damn sure better fix it. Or where we've always seen it is that a lot of people, they just want to pretty up their boat, right? They got a hole above the water line. It ain't ever going to sink their ship, but they want to constantly keep addressing it. And that's the triage concept of, why am I stepping over people that are bleeding out in my emergency room to go over here and take care of this guy that has a cough? Instead of fixing the guy that's bleeding out on my floor right in front of me. And we see it time and time and time again. It's like, getting down to the real root and understanding that if you don't address this, it's going to sink your ship, and your ship will go down. And, so something to think about for everybody kind of listening in. And those are just some frameworks and mental models to help you think more accurately, think better.
Yep.
Man, rocking and rolling.
Yes, sir. Fired up.
Yes, we are.
Get plugged in, everybody. Get on the Wednesday call. Get on the Thursday call with Wally. Get on the Friday funnel fries. Get plugged in. If you're struggling, and you're not plugged in, I got to tell you, you got one person to blame. Look in the mirror. The market's getting tougher, and if you're getting softer, that ain't going to work. You got to harden up, get plugged in, and get after this. It's game time, and have fun with it, and go all in.
Yeah.
Or, plan on serving burgers at Burger King or Taco Bell. There's always that plan B for you. But you got to get after it right now. And this market, there ain't going to be any room for soft people. You got to get in there, get hard, and get after it, and stop worrying about what other people are doing, or thinking about what you're doing. Head down, eyes up, and get after it. All right, everybody, I got to hop.
All right.
Love you guys.
Appreciate you guys. Love you.
See you.
We'll see you. Bye.
Yeah. See you guys.